everyone, it's Rev with a new series on my channel where I review a movie or a TV show that I either have seen before or haven't seen before. Basically just me reviewing stuff. So let's start off with one of my favorite TV shows of all time, Rocko's Modern Life. The plot of the show is about Rocko, a wallaby from Australia that has moved to America, living his new life in Old Town, and having to deal with all the bad luck he has to deal with on a daily basis. So the first thing I say that I really like about the show is how relatable it is. There's a lot of relatable things that Rocko and any other characters go through as well, like how aggravating garbage day is and having a problem biting your nails will go wrong while going fishing. But there's still a lot of cartoony stuff in it for the kids watching, even though most of the jokes, even most of the references are more for the adults and not for the kids. Another thing I love about the show is how really adult-oriented it is for a kid's show. They got away with a ton of adult stuff that I love. In fact, the second of a show actually got banned, which was called Leapfrog, because it was way too inappropriate for kids. It's pretty much about Mrs. Big Head trying to sexually seduce Rocko. There's also an episode where Heifer goes to hell, and they even have titles in some of the episodes, like Who Gives a Buck, and I forgot how to pronounce it, but it's supposed to be reference to the phrase shithead, the title of it anyway. And of course, Carnival Knowledge, which is of course the reference to the phrase carnal knowledge, and hell. The place the characters eat at is called the Choky Chicken. Despite all of this, they actually do an awesome job of hiding all of these adult jokes. So when you were a kid, you probably didn't even notice all of these dirty jokes and adult references. But when you watch the show now, all grown up, you'll begin to understand how not for kids it actually is. If you watch Ren and Stimpy and know how insane and adult-oriented that show is, this show is basically a tamer version of that show. And the show is known for being over the top and insane, but there are times where it really hits you in the heart, and it can actually make you feel for the characters. An example of this is the Season 2 premiere, I Have No Son. I'm not going to spoil what happens in this episode, but it does make you feel really bad for the character Ralph Bighead, with how he wants to be a cartoonist, and how he has to deal with his dad, not wanting him to be a cartoonist and all that stuff. And by the end of the episode, you really do feel good for Mr. Big Head and Ralph when they both make up. And up until this point, Mr. Big Head, Ralph's dad, had been nothing but a completely villainous asshole. And by the end of this episode, after him and his son make up, yeah, he's still an evil asshole, but you can tell he softened up a little bit after this episode and after he makes up with his son. And that leads me to the thing that I like the most about the show, that there's actually a storyline going on. And it's not like Gravity Falls, Steven Universe, or the first 7 or 8 seasons of Thomas, where you have to like watch every episode in order to get what's going on. But the show does have a story. And yeah, a lot of the episodes are episodic, but you'll notice that there is a little bit of continuity if you pay attention very closely. Like, for example, in Season 1, Rocko, I wouldn't say he wasn't always a nice guy, because he was always a nice guy, and he wasn't necessarily unhappy either. It's not very positive or confident in himself either, and had an unhealthy obsession with Melba. But you'll notice that as the show progresses, he starts to become a more confident and optimistic character, and it's really cool to watch the show progress and see him and Heifer's friendship become even stronger over time, and see him slowly adjust to his new life in Old Town. Another example of this was with Filbert. While Rocko had the best arc as far as character, Filbert definitely had the most inspiring, because not only like Rocko, he becomes a lot more confident and positive in himself, but he also completes a lot of his dreams, like becoming a good comic book shop salesman, becoming a good singer, and marrying Dr. Hutchinson. My favorite character, by the way. Dr. Hutchinson, I mean. I really feel like the show is more for teenagers or adults, though kids might still like it. In fact, I liked it as a kid myself. In fact, it's probably one of the most nostalgic shows from my childhood, because I watched it a lot. But I'm pretty sure people who actually, understand these adult jokes and references would like it a lot more, and just appreciate the storyline a lot more too.
Conclusion, Rocko's Modern Life is definitely one of my favorite shows of all time. And I know a lot of people are probably going to disagree with me on this, but in my opinion, this is probably the best Nickelodeon show of all time. Even better than SpongeBob. Yeah, SpongeBob is still a great show, don't get me wrong. It is an amazing show, just like Rocko. But I personally feel like the show is just a little bit better because the characters actually grow and change in this show. While SpongeBob, they don't. That's just my opinion, though. And this show is